Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to get into the real nitty-gritty of local power in Kenya. We're breaking down exactly how county elections work, from the very first moment someone decides to run for office, all the way to how every single vote gets counted and verified.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? Because it's not just about us showing up to cast a vote. It's about understanding the whole journey a candidate has to take just to get their name on that ballot. So let's follow that path together, step by step.
All right, so our journey starts right here, at the county assembly. This is basically the legislative arm of your county government. And to get a seat at that table as a member of county assembly, or what we all call an MCA, you've got to meet some very specific requirements.
So this chart lays it all out pretty clearly. On one hand, you've got the qualifications, what you have to be. You got to be a registered voter, have some post-secondary education, and meet all the moral and ethical laws. But on the other hand, it's also about what you can't be. You're out of the race if you're already a state officer, if you worked for the election board recently, if you have a serious criminal record, or a history of abusing public office. That's a pretty tough set of hurdles to clear right from the start. Okay, so let's say you've cleared all those hurdles. Now you have two paths to actually get your name on that ballot. You can get the nomination from a political party, or you can decide to run as an independent. But if you go the independent route, you have to prove you've got real community support, and that means hitting the streets and collecting at least 500 signatures from registered voters right there in your ward.
So you're on the ballot. The campaigns are going full steam ahead. But how is a winner actually chosen? Let's dive into the mechanics of the race itself.
You know, getting into the county assembly is actually a bit more complicated than just winning an election. Sure, most members are directly elected, one from each ward. But there's this whole other group, nominated members. Political parties use these nominated seats to make sure the assembly has voices representing women, people with disabilities, and the youth. And this is a really key feature, right? It's all designed to make sure the government actually looks like the community it serves.
So for those elected seats, how do you win? It's actually really simple. It's called the plurality formula, or what a lot of people call first past the post. All it means is that the candidate with the most votes wins. You don't need over 50%, you just need more votes than the next person. Simple as that.
And how long do they get to serve? Well, one term is 5 years.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Unlike a lot of other high offices, for an MCA, there are absolutely no term limits. An MCA can be re-elected again and again and again for as long as their voters will have them. And think about what that means. It allows for some really deep continuity, but it also totally changes the conversation around new leadership, doesn't it? Okay, so MCAs can basically serve as long as they keep winning. But the rules totally change when we look at the top job, the county governor. This is the chief executive of the county, and the race for this office, well, it has a completely different set of requirements. Yeah, the bar is definitely set higher for governor. And you'll notice a really key difference right away. A candidate for governor must have a recognized university degree. On top of that, they still have to meet all the same basic criteria as an MCA, and, this is critical, they have to choose a running mate to be their deputy governor. And wow, the scope of this job is just huge. The governor is the head of the county executive, which means they're in charge of all county services. They get to appoint their own cabinet, the executive committee, and other local boards. But, and this is a key check on their power, the county assembly has to approve those cabinet picks. So remember how we said there are no term limits for MCAs? Well, for a governor, it's a completely different story. The magic number here is 2. And this isn't just a suggestion. It's a hard constitutional limit. It's a sharp contrast to the MCAs. A governor can serve for a maximum of 2 terms, and that's it. After that, they have to step aside. And this is all by design, right? It's meant to ensure there's a regular turnover of leadership right at the very top of county government. All right, so we've got the candidates, we've got the rules of the race, but how do we make sure the race is actually run fairly? That brings us to the final, and maybe the most crucial piece of the puzzle, the people who act as the referees for the whole process. So let's start with the official definition from the IEBC itself, Kenya's Electoral Commission. Election observation is all about gathering information systematically. But the key phrase here, the one you really need to remember, is without interference. Observers watch, they record, but they absolutely do not intervene in the process. So what does an observer actually do all day? Well, their work follows these 4 key steps. First, they observe what's happening. Second, they gather all the facts. Third, they take those facts and see how they stack up against the election law. And finally, they write it all up in a public report. You see how that works? It's a really clear path from just watching something to creating real accountability.
Okay, but not all observers are the same. There are a few different types. First up, you've got your domestic observers. These are impartial, independent groups from right here in Kenya. We're talking local civil society organizations who are on the ground, making sure the process is fair for their own communities.
Next up, you've got your international observers. Basically, their job is to see if the election holds up to global democratic standards. Their presence and their final reports, well, what they say really matters on the world stage when it comes to the election's credibility. And then there's a third group, party and candidate agents. Now, these guys are different. They're openly partisan. They're there to look out for their candidates or their party's interests. But, and this is a huge but, that main rule still applies. They cannot interfere with the process. So when you put it all together, you get this really powerful system of checks and balances, right? You've got the local folks ensuring fairness, the international experts upholding global standards, and the party watchdogs looking out for their own. All of them are watching, creating this amazing web of accountability over the whole election. And don't think these observers are just standing around with a clipboard. They have real authority. Once they're accredited by the IEBC and take an oath, they have the right to go into any polling station, any vote counting location, scrutinize voter lists, and even seek information from election officials. They're basically empowered to be really effective watchdogs. So there you have it. We've walked through the whole journey from someone deciding to run, to the rules of the race, to the referees who watch over it all. The system has its rules and it has its watchers, all there to ensure integrity. So the only question left is for you. In this incredibly complex and vital process, what role will you play?